So hello and welcome to the 90 in 90 series. My name is Amanda O'Shea from Specific Experience, and I have Greg Suchy from Ohio who is with me on this conversation. How you doing, Greg?
Fantastic. How are you doing, Amanda?
Good, yeah, really good, thank you. It's lovely to see you. And
Well, thanks for having me.
pleasure. So we're on a time difference. It's afternoon here, well, early evening here for me, and I guess it's lunchtime there for you.
Right.
Yeah. So we're on different. We're in different parts of the globe, but it's all good. We're all connected. Greg.
It's amazing how we can connect over something like this, you know?
Yeah. And it is, and what I love is you never know as well. Like you never know where somebody is watching this from, where they are, or what time zone they're on, or whether they're watching this early morning or middle of the night, or you know, it's kind of cool, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's sometimes we talk about technology like it's you know, it's a pain in the butt, which sometimes it is. Like you know, when it's not going the way that we expect it to go, but actually, it's amazing, isn't it?
It really is. We're, in a way, people are more connected than ever. We have the ability to be more connected than ever. And yet there seems to be this disconnection that's growing between people because there's more time spent interacting through these apps rather than face to face. Even something like this is great, where we get to see each other and actually have a conversation.
Yeah.
But so many people spend their days on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all that kind of stuff. And you kind of lose the social aspect of life.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of the beauty comes in. And I see a lot of suffering happening in the world around me, and it's all innocent. It's all people trying their best to, get through life and handle things. But if people could just understand the simplicity behind how we actually experience life, it would dramatically change everything. And all these things, all these apps and stuff, they're great tools. And how you use them is what determines your experience of them. And it's really the very similar thing to our thinking and how our experience of life is created. We don't always have control over which thoughts pop into our heads, but we can decide what to do with those thoughts. That's the beauty of it. Do you give it attention or do you ignore it?
Yeah, and we don't have any control of what's just happening either, right? So these events and situations and circumstances just happen. That's it. They're just happening around us. But is there something? I love that sort of. You just mentioned innocent suffering, but is there some? Have you been seeing anything? I don't know recently, or have you been seeing anything clear, or do you have any message that you kind of want to talk about or want to share?
I would say, the main thing I would like people to know is just what, there's a Sid quote that I've always loved, Sydney Banks. And, he said, if the only thing people learn was not to be afraid of their experience of life, that alone would change the world.
I love that quote.
And I've always loved that quote because it is so true. And it just speaks to my heart because I used to be like that. I used to be afraid of my everyday experience, and I even to the point of paranoia at times, thinking that the world's a horrible place and people are just terrible and all that. And it was this understanding of the three principles that really changed all of that for me. Mm-hmm. And it brought this ease and comfort to life, even with all the same stuff happening. Yeah. There is an answer out there, and the answer is not in getting into an unhealthy relationship. It's not about, getting into drugs and drinking heavy and shopping and gambling and all the things that we like to turn to. Even getting lost in social media. It's vital that we connect with other human beings and have those real conversations. Yeah. Not talking about the weather and sports and work and stuff like that. No, let's talk about, hey, I'm having a hard time with this. Yeah. There's something in my life, and then you might find out you're not the only one. And then you might talk to somebody who had that same problem and now they're fine with it, you
Yeah.
know, and you can have that conversation and find some of that ease and comfort for yourself just by connecting with other people.
Mm. And I think there is something about that when we, for me anyway, I totally relate to that. The paranoia, how easy it is to slip there, how easy it is, you know. But when I came across the principles, you know, it was really helpful for me to understand what it was that I was doing, like innocently and habitually in my own thinking, you know, my own thinking patterns. But you said something there about listening, and I get to see that deep listening is, you know, was one of the most powerful things that I learned to do. What that meant, you know, listening beyond the words, really deep listening to where I was at or where other people were at, like what level of consciousness I was at or what other people were at, and just seeing that, you know, and I wonder, do we do that now automatically without realizing it? I wonder, are we, without realizing it, just it's become second nature to us to check in, you know, without even knowing that's
I,
what we're doing.
I really think it has, because I get a lot of people who just, you know, I go to a lot of music jams and stuff, so I'm meeting a lot of different people, and I love walking around having conversations with people I don't know. And
Mm.
I'm always amazed at how many people say something along the lines of, wow, you are incredibly easy to talk to.
Wow.
You know, and that wasn't the case years ago. People would kind of wander away from me at parties and stuff. I wasn't, you know, I wasn't really connected. I
Mm.
was so concerned with my own feelings of lack of self-worth, and, you know, my self-esteem was horrible for the longest time. You know,
Mm.
even things like dancing. You would not see me on the dance floor. And yet Friday night I danced for hours. Even with an injured back, and my back actually felt better after dancing. I mean, go figure. You
Yeah.
know, I loosened it up and I had a great time. You know, and it's amazing how many things have changed in my life without effort is the main thing for me. Because before it took so much mental effort just to try to get myself to do something, and then it still never felt right.
Yeah.
And now it's like with that active listening, it's almost the same thing. It's like actively listening to life.
It's the
I
key.
felt like dancing, so I danced. I probably looked like an idiot, like a three-legged giraffe on ice, but it's okay. I had fun, and it was a really great evening.
Yeah. And isn't that, you know yourself, right? How much thinking we have in that sort of situation of like, oh, I wonder how I look when I'm dancing, or I wonder if I'm as good a dancer as him or as her, or, you know, that kind of thing that people are every day without realizing it, having a lot of those kind of thoughts in their just general, you know, and just that, and that's all of us. That's us included. You know, that's like, you know, we might be freer now, I think, in certain things we do, but it's human behavior to want to know like how we're looking, and, you know, how,
Oh
even when
yeah.
I'm doing these Zoom calls, you know, so you come onto one, then suddenly you go, oh no, oh, look at my hair, oh no, oh no, look at this, oh no, you know, because
I always think about my hair before these. I want to make sure every little hair is in place.
but it's, you know, it's how it is. But something like you say, to enjoy something like being on the dance floor and being able to, you know, move your body, or being able to sing along to a song without having any thinking of, oh, is anybody watching me, or do I look silly, or, you know, that is so lovely, isn't it? That, you know, that's
It really is. And this was honestly the first time I danced and actually felt good about it.
no.
So even, you know, years after coming across the principles and having this understanding, I'm still having all these new experiences. That's wonderful. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, I still try olives, and I still hate them, but I still try them.
There's real many olives.
Figure maybe this will be a good olive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe I just don't like olives. I don't know.
And maybe that's all right. But it is funny, isn't it? Like We want to be, you know, we want to be open-minded, and sometimes something just doesn't suit us, you know.
Yeah.
But
And that's okay.
and it is okay. Isn't there something about when you just said that, you know, when we come back to like being in that place that's quite a nice, loving place, quite a free place, and a place where I see myself in gratitude and thanks, that how lucky we are to like be able to have legs and dance, and you know, and we
Right.
spend more of our time, you know, we spend that time sort of criticizing ourselves or criticizing other people, or um I see that as a big, you know, we talk a lot about habits. I know that you know, you run your group there, and we and with my work I speak a lot about habits and addictions. We're often in really innocent habits which are nothing to do with substances or, you know, shopping, gambling, sort of that kind of thing. Actually, we're in habits, habitual thought patterns like self-criticism or criticism of others, or, you know, criticism
Oh
of the
yeah.
world, and just in that, and we see that that's coming from like a sort of expression of fear. You know, that's coming from um the worry, concern, I don't know, gossipy. It's it's got a different kind of flavor to it. And maybe we were born, you know, brought up in a house that was normal chat, and that's what everybody
Right.
did, and we don't even know there's anything, you know, nothing in that, because that's what everybody does. But once
Yeah,
you,
we don't know it's abnormal until we get around people
yeah,
who don't do it.
and then it's like you're observing it from here and from here, and it's like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And that's the key to it. And that was something that Sid talked about a lot, was the feeling. How are you feeling when you're doing this stuff? And I can tell you, when I'm caught in those moments where I'm being judgmental of myself or others or whatever, I don't feel good.
Yeah.
It's never a good feeling that comes with that.
Yeah.
You know, it might be feeding the ego, and the ego might feel good
Yeah.
for just that moment.
Yeah.
But that deeper feeling, it's not there. That good feeling just, it goes away when those moments come around. You know, it's covered up. It's not that it goes away, it's covered up.
And that's why something like when we get to shine a little light on this, when we get to like expose or get familiar with feelings like paranoia, for example, we mentioned earlier, they're actually gifts to us when we catch them, to let us know that, you know, that our thinking's in sort of, you know, a low level, right? Low level thinking. If we catch that, if we can see that that yucky feeling, that not good feeling, is just letting us know where we're at, not anything to do with the world, or but where we're at. And that is actually, I think, it's not that difficult to get our heads around, yet it seems to be. That like an uneasy, yucky, bad, uncomfortable feeling is just telling us where our thinking's at, that our thinking is yucky, uncomfortable, not in such a good place, our mindset, our mood.
Right. And
Yeah.
there's evidence all around us of that. And we just tend to not see it. You know, with like when I'd be at a place where people are dancing and I'd be the one sitting in the chair
Yeah. Yeah.
saying, you know, this just isn't, you know, this isn't the right time for dancing or something, but everyone else is having a great time dancing. So where do you really think that experience is coming from?
Yeah.
Obviously the music's fine, obviously the atmosphere is fine, obviously the company is fine, the
Yeah.
people are fine, it's all there.
Yeah.
And I do have to admit, a little bit of me getting out dancing had to do with a young lady I've been seeing lately. So it was,
Oh, how lovely.
she did get it started, but afterward I'm like, this is actually really fun. Like, this is
Oh,
great. And it was so cool to watch this older couple. They must have been close to 80. They're out there dancing it up like I couldn't believe. I'm like, I hope I can move like that when I'm, you know what I mean? It
isn't that,
was such a
yeah,
such a beautiful experience once I let go of my own story
yeah,
that I'd created, that I'm a bad dancer, that I don't like dancing or whatever.
yeah. And that is lovely to watch two people like that, I love seeing couples dance, or you know, or people dance where they're really into it because they're present. Like what they're
Yeah.
doing in that moment is being present. They're not thinking, how do I look? And do we look like we look right together, or do we look like we fit, or do we look like, you know, they're just dancing, right?
They were just in the moment.
So you're a musician, aren't you, Greg?
Yes.
Yeah. What do you play?
I play guitar, six-string banjo, washtub bass, a little bit of drums and mandolin.
You're a one-man band.
I do a little bit of a lot of things.
Wow.
mainly I play the washtub bass and the six-string banjo there, and I sing.
Wow. Oh, I'm so hope I get to listen and hear you soon. And I'm going to meet you. You're going to the May conference up in.
I am, and I have been asked to actually bring my instruments and play some music there. So
Yeah. So I really hope I get to see you. But when you're playing your music, you know, when you are there, when you are in that really good connection with your instrument and with the sound and just in the moment, there's no space for suffering, is there?
no, there isn't. And it becomes, that's one time when it is really obvious to me how present I am. Which if I'm really present in the moment and really feeling it, I don't miss a note. I don't miss, everything just comes out great.
Mm.
But if I'm thinking about something, if I've got something on my mind and I'm letting it kind of, take up some space, I start missing, my fingers don't go to the right place on the strings and things like that. It's really kind of a neat experience when that happens. Because it's just pointing out, it's like, oh, okay, obviously I fell back into thinking again. And as soon as I see it, it goes away.
And that is so lovely to see somebody, for me, to see somebody who's in song or playing an instrument, or like you say, the couple dancing on the floor. They are just, that's where they're at. And I think the more that we see that we're present with whatever it is that we're doing, the more enjoyment we just get out of life, the more, or the less we suffer.
Well, and not even ourselves, but when I'm really in that moment and the music's just flowing through me, I'm not making music, it's just flowing through me. The audience is really into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're laughing and crying and dancing and whatever, and it's such a neat experience to be able to share the feeling and to be able to do it through music.
Yeah. And that is so true, like we're all sharing a feeling, and that feeling that we experience is inside everybody. It's available to everybody.
Yeah. I truly believe that every possibility exists in every moment.
Yeah.
And that we're only going to see the ones that we're tuned into.
Yeah. So that's good news.
Yeah, it's excellent news. The great news is we are creating all of our own suffering, which means we don't have to wait for circumstances to change. We can be happier and more relaxed now.
Mm. That took so much of the sort of control. I see that the character of Amanda was much more controlling before, because it felt like I had to control out there, and that it's not, that's much easier to live around somebody that's not trying to control everybody else's actions. And I catch myself, if I go into that mode, I know, I'm not in such a good place, I catch that, and I just have to do whatever feels right for me on that moment, to kind of let my thinking settle and get the good feeling come back up.
Sometimes it's exhausting trying to control everything.
Absolutely, I certainly can't control. I've got 2 dogs here who just want to do whatever they don't. I love that with dogs. You've got the cat. I know you always have the cat, don't you? That sometimes just
Yeah. He's behind the computer now.
Oh
He's
really?
lying there.
Oh really? So
Yeah.
you can see the cat. But it's like, you know, whether the dogs just do whatever, I don't know, whatever they're doing in the moment. And when I watch my dogs playing out, I don't know, they don't seem to be as concerned as the humans that I watch, you know, around the place.
Right.
Just getting on with it in the moment. In the moment. I think there is something about us, you know, something for us to understand when we see the innocence within, when we see that people are creating their own suffering, that's easier for us as well. Like that's
In a way. In a way it is, because I know it's not permanent. And it's just like you're talking about with your dogs. You might take them out to a dog park and they get in a little, a little scuffle with another dog. But 5 minutes later, they're not angry at that other dog. You know what I mean? They're playing with the ball they're playing with, or they moved on to another dog to play with. You know what I mean? It's this flow that they go with. And yeah, going through life, we're going to come upon times that aren't so comfortable. We can't avoid that. We're going to lose loved ones. Relationships end, things happen, jobs end. Things come up that cause uncomfortable feelings. But the main part of the suffering comes from the story we create in response to that. I lost my job. Oh, so now I'm going to lose my house and my cars, and I'm going to be homeless. And like we can create all of these stories and repeat them to ourselves over and over again until we actually believe them.
yeah, and we do.
And then we're going around telling all of our friends, oh, I just lost my job. Now I'm going to lose my house and my cars. And they're all looking at us like, really? Like,
Yeah.
you're an intelligent, talented person. I think you're going to find another job.
Yeah.
You might have to cut back for a couple weeks, but you'll be all right. But in our heads, it's the end of the world.
I was speaking with my hairdresser the other day about that, because something came up and there was another client who said to her, oh, I remember when you were really stressed about something. And she was like, oh, I didn't really think I was that stressed about this situation. I think it was putting a new kitchen in or something like that. And she was like, oh, wow. Do like my clients pick up on, on sort of things that I've been doing. And I said to her, when you've got something going on in your world, let's say you're putting a new kitchen in, how many times a day working as a hairdresser do you tell that story? And she says, yeah, it's probably like say you have 5, 6, 7 clients in that day, that's the conversation. Oh, you'll never guess what happened this morning. You never guess.
Right.
And so you've built it up and built it up and built it up. And she's like, I know, I see that. Like I did. She's like, I'm not going to do that anymore.
Right. And then when the kitchen's done, that whole story goes away.
Yeah.
It just vanishes, and you don't even remember it being there. Until it was pointed out to her. She didn't even realize she was doing it.
No, because she went home to her husband and she said, when we had the kitchen put in, it really, whatever this lady had said to her, the lady said, oh, I'm as stressed as you were when you had your kitchen put in. And she went home to her husband. She said, like, well, we stressed when we had the kitchen put in. And he's like, well, there was a lot going on because, this happened and that happened. She's like, oh, right. I didn't even remember. But it is, I think sometimes we might think that, big things or we've been taught that big things are what's stressful. Moving house, getting divorced, this, that, blah, blah, blah. And actually what we're seeing now is that it's got nothing to do with events, situations, circumstances. People create their own stress, whether it's over something very teeny, what's teeny to one person is big to another, but something that we might say is not really a big deal. And yet other people can go through moving houses, divorces, big accidents, losing lots of money, I remember when I had a fire in my house and I lost everything. But I was all right. And that was my truth. I was all right with it. And so what is stressful for one person is not for another. What somebody suffers with, somebody else would breeze through. And that's for me, that's what's so helpful about learning about the principles behind the human experience, seeing that we create, all our feelings come from our own thinking, and we're only ever as seduced as the level of consciousness that we're hanging out in.
Right. That is the absolute truth in every moment. And it doesn't even have to be a whole day. That's another thing that I notice has changed with me, is that things don't ruin my day.
Great.
I might have a few bad minutes or something.
Yeah.
But then I let it go and I move on.
Yeah, that's so true. Because, when I, being at the treatment center, some mornings I used to kind of, if people hadn't come down for breakfast, or you give people a knock in the morning, and I remember a guy saying, "Oh, forget about me today. I'm not doing anything. I'm having a bad day, and just I'll." And I said to him, "It's 9 o'clock in the morning. 9 o'clock in the morning. Come get dressed. We go out for a coffee. And but at 10 o'clock we're laughing and joking or whatever. But that we could." That's what he said that's what he would have done at home, was just written the day off. Absolutely written the day. Sometimes we've had 3 or 4 negative thoughts in a row, and we're having a bad day.
Oh, I used to waste months on thoughts. I'd carry it on for months, keep that story going about how horrible my life is because blah, 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 whatever happened, and totally overlooking all the beautiful things that are happening around me.
Yeah. And that's
because
so
I'm
nice.
so focused on that.
And that's so nice, Greg, to see someone like, as you talk now, playing your instruments, you're traveling around, you're dancing. It's like,
I even bought a kayak this spring.
Hey, so did I. I got a kayak.
And I put a few 100 miles on that thing this summer. I mean, it's amazing. I went up to northern Michigan and went kayaking up there and camping on a big sand dune on Lake Michigan. It was just amazing. I could see the Aurora Borealis and the Milky Way, and watch a thunderstorm go across the other side of the lake, and it was really something else.
Wow.
And I almost didn't go. Just because of some story I had in my head. And I'm like, wait a minute. Actually, it was funny. I caught myself and I started laughing. And I'm like, that's just a story.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going. Let's have this adventure. Let's have this new experience. And I'm not going to say that every adventure I had this summer was always fun, but I'm glad I did every one of them. I got to meet some amazing people and see some really cool stuff. And overall, everything was it was such a great summer.
Good for you, Greg. I'm so happy for you. You do so much for this community, and you're doing so much, especially in the field of, working with, the field of the alcoholism and addiction and everything that you're doing with the principles. So thank you for everything that you've done, and thank you for what I've learned from you, because I've really learned so much from you. So I can't wait to
my pleasure.
Hang out with you and get you on that dance floor then in May. There's no excuses now. At the conference. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You better get
new pair of time.
Shoes. Yeah. Oh, so Greg, I think that's a really nice place to, to say cheerio, and thank you for being part of this 1990 little conversations with 90 fabulous people over 90 days.
Thank you. You are absolutely one of those fabulous people, Amanda.
Oh, you too. Thank you, Greg, my lovely. And I'll see you soon. Lots of love.
Take care.
Bye, Greg. Bye, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.